People are waving.
What's up, everybody?
Where? On his Facebook?
On his Instagram. We have 9 people.
Dope. Cool. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is a state of the real estate market address. I wanted to reach out to y'all and just talk to you about real estate. First and foremost, I want to start off by just sending my love to everybody out there. We're in trying times. It's difficult right now, and I wish y'all to be safe. And hopefully, we could hug each other soon, one of these days. So, the purpose of this broadcast is pretty simple. If you're on here, it's because you have an interest in real estate. And I think a lot of us do have an interest in real estate. We either rent from somebody, or we own where we live, or we're an investor and we rent to other people. So we have to know what's going on, especially in this time. There's like a lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty, and this is why we're just talking about it. And honestly, we're premature on this broadcast. We should be having this broadcast 1, 2, 3 months from now, because that's really when we're going to see the impact and the consequences of this whole coronavirus thing. The reason why we're doing it right now is because, again, I'm getting phone calls, text messages from people that own real estate, that are thinking about buying real estate, they're in deals, or they're thinking about selling. So I just wanted to reach out that way. I could share with you all the knowledge that I have from talking to a lot of really smart people over the last week or so about the impacts of the coronavirus and the real estate market and where we're heading. Okay? So surviving through the 2008 crash, it was crazy, simply because back then it just hit us out of nowhere. Next thing you know, it's like prices are just half of what they used to be. Nobody can get loans. Everyone's in a panic. A lot of really successful people that I knew, mentors of mine, people close to me, lost everything in just a blink of an eye, right? And during that time, I was lucky enough that I actually thrived and grew during that time just because of some decisions I had made in 2007. With that being said, I'm comparing 2008 to now 2020, and there's some similarities, but there's also some differences. The biggest difference that I see now to then is that right now it's almost like a snail. It's like a slow moving recession that we're actually seeing happen. Not like 2008 where just like you didn't have the time to react, and even if you wanted to react, you just lost a lot of money in whatever decision you were making, whether you're buying a house, selling a house, or just not doing anything, just holding on to real estate. So the cool thing about this time around is that it's not financially based. In 2008, it was financially based with mortgages that were just faulty. Therefore, they're artificially increasing the values of real estate. Where this time around, it had nothing to do with the mortgages or the artificial inflation of prices of real estate. So it has to do with obviously the virus plus the economy. So this time around, I think you're in a good position. If you educate yourself, there's going to be opportunities, and this is why we're here, is just to educate one another. That way we can make the best decisions out there, okay? So I'm just going to name a couple things we're going to cover today. Really exciting stuff. Airbnbs, rental real estate, court order sales, county recorder's office, stats on the real estate market, selling a home or buying a home, and pros and cons on those. So first, I want to talk about Airbnbs. There's an estimated 11,000 Airbnbs in San Diego. The reason why I'm talking about Airbnbs is because it's going to impact the real estate market. So with 11,000 Airbnbs in San Diego, that's a huge amount. San Diego is the second leading destination in California for Airbnb. So when someone comes to California, there's a high probability that they stay in San Diego. So why am I talking about it? Well, because there's an 80 to 90% cancellation rate right now with Airbnbs. So out of all these people that bought real estate thinking I'm gonna start an Airbnb business, or all these people that own real estate and they had regular renters in there or they live there, and they said, hey, look it, I'm gonna turn it into an Airbnb. A lot of those people, they're not making any income right now, and potentially they might be screwed. So they have a couple of decisions to make. Either they transform their Airbnb to a regular month-to-month rental, or they sell the property. Okay, right now the way Airbnb has it is they're returning and they're refunding all monies to the visitors, the guests, if they cancel any of their reservations before April 14th. So as you can imagine, nobody in the real estate, in the Airbnb game right now is making any money at all. So there's 11,000 units in San Diego that potentially might go for a regular month-to-month rental and or up for sale. So let's keep that in mind. Now, the next thing to talk about is the actual rental market. So if you're a landlord and you have rentals, we have to remind ourselves, because right now everyone's panicking and it's like, what's going to happen? Well, we have to remind ourselves what happened just a month ago, or not even what happened, but what everybody was talking about. And that's affordable housing and housing in general in California. We're negative 100,000 units in California. And there's estimates that we need 3.5 million housing units in California by the year 2025. 3.5 million just to meet the current needs. Okay, so we're still in a housing shortage. Let's not forget that. And that's why California last year, they passed a granny flat law that made it to where cities had to allow people to build granny flats in their backyards, accessory dwelling units, they call them ADUs, and that was a big craze. So let's not forget that we are in a housing crisis, and that's what we were talking about not too long ago. Now, the other thing is the rezoning, right? They wanted to rezone a lot of these neighborhoods so they would allow for a higher density. And the average rent as of November, according to Union Tribune, is $1,852 a month. So the average rent is $1,852. People are still, looking to rent. There's a shortage of rentals. So that's something to consider. Now, is there going to be an impact on rentals? Potentially, especially if there's 11,000 units coming to market, from 1 month to the next. I don't really see that a big impact there. The biggest thing that I see is a lot of these high-end condos that are being built, and they're charging crazy amount of money for a one bedroom, three grand and things of that nature. Those people, since they built and they had their projections, based on how much rent they could get, they might be impacted just because the rents in those areas might drop a little bit. I'm just guessing on that one. Now, county recorder's office, changing topics, moving forward, there's been talk that the county recording office might close, and that might impact real estate sales, because when you transfer a deed to someone, you need to record it with the county. So the county has a special department specifically for real estate transactions, so that's not going to be affected. A lot of investors have reached out with that concern to me. So now let's get into real estate stats. Just so we all know, the median priced home in San Diego is $587,000. The median priced single family home detached is $657,000. So right now we're at all-time highs.
Someone asked a question.
What's the question?
Hello, is that for a 1 bedroom? I think she was asking about the rents.
Yeah, so the rents,
Beatriz.
the $1,852 a month on average, that's just the average rent in San Diego. And they take the studios all the way up to the 5-6 bedroom homes, and then they just average it out, $1,852. So in my experience, $1,852 will get you like a 2 bedroom in like not the greatest neighborhood, or it'll get you a 1 bedroom in a nicer neighborhood. So that's kind of what's going on. And then with the newer stuff, like the new builds, they're renting like a 1 bedroom for $2,500, to $3,000, depending if you're in the North Park neighborhood and places like that.
She said thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. All right. So now we're talking about the stats. So the month supply of home is 1.5 month supply of homes. So in a healthy market, there's 6 months supply of homes. So what does that mean? That means that there's this many buyers and this many sellers. So even a few years ago, it's always been where there's more buyers than there is sellers right here in San Diego. So the month supply of homes is still very low. The hottest property type right now is condos and townhomes. So there's more condos and townhomes being sold than there is houses right now. Okay, so now let's get into what if you're a seller and what if you're a buyer right now in this market. If you're selling a property right now, prices are at all-time highs. The funny thing that I compare, or I always make the comparison, is in San Diego, it is expensive, but it's not unaffordable, because a lot of people that are buying right now at all-time highs, they're qualifying for 30-year fixed loans, and they're able to make their mortgage payments. Now, if we compare to 2008, back then people weren't able to actually afford their homes, and that's why they lost their homes. So there's like a flood of properties coming to the market because a lot of people were losing their homes because of their mortgages. That's not the case right now in this market. Inventory at the same time, again, is super low. So with super low inventories, low interest rates, it's pushing the prices up, and they're at all-time highs. So the biggest threats to a home seller right now, number one, consumer confidence, because everybody's scared. Nobody knows what's going on. There's uncertainty. So that could be a huge threat to home sellers out there. Second is unemployment, right? There's going to be people not making enough money, people losing their jobs because of what's going on, being laid off temporarily or permanently, and that's going to impact home sellers. Third is stock market dropping, because if the stock market drops, then there's a lot of buyers that use those down payments they borrow against their stock portfolio in order to use a down payment to buy. And then the fourth biggest threat is the slowdown in foot traffic. Right now, it's unbelievably slow in foot traffic. Open houses are non-existent because there's a lot of tenants and owners alike that really don't want a lot of people walking through their home with this whole coronavirus thing.
Audio is distorted on this one.
There's what?
Audio. Can you guys hear now?
We good?
I think so, yeah.
Cool. All right. So the foot traffic is slowing down. Tenants and owners don't want a lot of people walking through the home because they don't want to be infected. So that's a big concern for sellers as a threat. Okay. So who's going to be the most impacted? As far as sellers, it's hard to tell, but I would say the higher end sellers, because the higher end sellers, they expect buyers to come in and buy their place, and the buyers that are buying their place need a big down payment. They usually get that from the stock portfolio. Right now, stocks, went down substantially. The opportunity. This is the opportunity for sellers. The opportunity is you could still sell at the top of the market, because unlike 2008, where your home was worth $600,000 and just went to $300,000 just like that, right now that hasn't happened yet. You could still sell your home. If it's worth $600,000, you could get $600,000 or pretty close to it. I know that a lot of condo sellers right now are listing their condos and they're getting at or above asking price. And the reason why is because there's been 2 to 4 buyers per property in the last 12 months. So if you have your house for sale, your condo for sale, there's been 2 to 4 offers on your home when you go to sell. So even if half of those buyers get cold feet, the confidence isn't there for them to buy, or they lose their job, you still have 1 or 2 buyers interested in your home, okay? So that's the biggest opportunity for home sellers right now, whether it's your personal residence or whether it's investment property. Now we're going into buying a home right now. If you're buying a home right now in this market, what are you expecting, okay? Number one is banks. Banks are tying up their guidelines. So there's been a lot of loan programs that weren't standard conventional FHA or VA loans that have got eliminated. Banks aren't doing those anymore. So what they're doing is they're being very conservative because there's a lot of uncertainty. They don't want to get caught in the wrong market. Interest rates, although the Feds cut interest rates to 0 or nearly 0%, where they're letting banks borrow. So basically what that means is they're letting banks borrow money at almost 0% interest. And in return, they expect those banks to lend consumers at lower rates. That hasn't happened yet. So the banks are kind of pulling up because they're being conservative and they're not letting interest rates, people borrow at very, very low interest rates. The good news for buyers is they're still letting people borrow loans at historical lows. So let me explain that. In 1970, you could get a loan for 8% on average. In 1980, about 13% on average. In 1990, about 8% on average. Between 2000 and 2010, you could get a loan at about 6% on average. So 2010 to 2020, it's been about 4% on average, and we're still there. So if you're a buyer, you can still get a loan at historical rates. But right now, again, the banks, they're uncertain. Now, the biggest threats for a buyer is sellers potentially pulling back inventory. So there could be sellers who are afraid to put their home on the market right now, and therefore there's going to be less inventory. And right now, again, we're at negative inventory level. So we need sellers to put their homes on the market, and that might be a big threat to a potential buyer. Your income might get slashed by a certain percentage because of the coronavirus. Number 3, the down payment. If you expecting to use down payment from your stock portfolio, you might be able to borrow a lot less than maybe what you had thought you were going to be able to borrow. So here's an opportunity for buyers. Rates are still at all-time lows. You could finance and get a low payment on a 30-year fixed mortgage. And the other opportunity is that depending on what happens, there might be some panicky sellers that just want their houses sold, and you might be able to get a small discount. So all in all, from all the people that I've talked to lenders, I've talked to financial advisors, I've talked to deca millionaires, people that are worth a lot of money, that are big time investors. I've talked to small timers. I've talked to a lot of real estate agents, and the consensus is that real estate will be impacted. Nobody knows exactly how it's going to be impacted, but there is going to be opportunity. And in situations like this, you have to do your homework. If you're looking to buy, if you're looking to sell, if you own any real estate, you have to understand what's going on, and then you have to make a decision. So if you own real estate, you have to make a decision. If you stand on the sidelines and not do anything, that's only making a decision if you decided not to do anything. But if you don't do your homework, study, meet with people, ask questions, then you might be like a lot of other people 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they're saying, damn, I should have done something in 2008. I should have done something in 2010. I should have made a move. So you don't want to be that person. So you have to educate yourself now and make a decision on what to do.
There's a question.
Yes.
Do you ripple effect happening, such as no rental income, evictions to people selling cheap?
Okay, good question. I think I understand the question as, is there going to be a ripple effect?
Or do you see a ripple is probably what he meant.
Yeah, so if we see a ripple effect from people not being able to pay their rent, therefore the landlords aren't able to pay their mortgage. So that's a great question. I almost forgot to touch on that. So renters in the city of San Diego, they put like a moratorium on evictions, right? That doesn't mean that renters, let's say, don't have to pay rent. That just means that the landlords can't evict them. They still owe what they owe. Now, if a renter can't pay a landlord, obviously that's going to put a stress on the landlord, because a lot of landlords really don't make that much money off the rent. A lot of them are breaking even after expenses and everything they have to pay. So the landlords, what I've been noticing as I log into my banks, as I talk to other landlords in town, is that the banks are putting it out there right now that they have their mortgages with, saying, hey, look, if you can't make the mortgage payment on time, we'll work with you. We're not going to forgive it, but we'll work with you on it. Compared to 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, banks, they weren't smart enough. What they started doing is immediately just foreclosing on properties. They lost a lot of money that way. Well, it looks like they lost a lot of money, but there's ways that they got that money back on the back end by the U.S. government. But with that being said, this time around, banks are a lot smarter, because it just happened 10 years ago that they were going through that. So now they're actually proactively saying, hey, look, we'll work with you. We understand what's going on. And they're just not just cutting you off just like that. So do I see a ripple effect? I see a ripple effect that tenants may not be able to pay, number one. And then number two, the landlords have to go get assistance from the bank. So there's going to be a lot of paperwork going back and forth. As far as them losing the properties, it depends how long this thing lasts. If this lasts only a few months, I don't see it really being that bad. But if it lasts longer than that, then yeah, I mean, it could be a ripple effect.
You look scared. I'm talking about it.
Oh, do I? Cool. Any other questions out there?
With the economy changing so quickly, do you see foreclosures in the future like 2010?
I don't. That was an interesting time in 2008 when all the foreclosures, and I was in the middle of that. I sat down with hundreds of people in foreclosure and went over all their options and consulted them on it. It was just a different time. Why? Because the whole recession was based on bad mortgages. This time around, everybody that has a mortgage, not everybody, but most people that got mortgages, they got 30-year fixed rates. Unlike 2005, 6, 7, 8, what they had 2-year fixed rates. And they were fixed at a low rate, and after 2 years, they would adjust, and their payment would double or triple. So that's not happening here. So even if they missed a few payments, the banks are working with people, will work with people, and they would just tack it onto the balance. So the only way that we're going to see a lot of foreclosures is if people are actually losing their jobs completely, and they're not able to make a payment, they can't find another job. What other questions do we have out there?
We have a comment.
What's the comment?
That you look cute.
Oh,
Not
yeah?
scared.
Thank you. Appreciate you, whoever that was.
A guy.
A guy. Oh, man. All right.
Okay.
Hey. Cool. Well, if you have any questions about the real estate market at all, what's going on, if you need help figuring out your real estate portfolio, reach out to us, DM us. We're here to help. Yes.
Do you see loan modifications in the future?
Yes. Yeah, I see a loan modifications. So when these banks actually work with people, what that means is if they're behind a few months on their mortgages because of what happened, they modify the loan and then they tack on those few months of mortgages onto their balance. Will they reduce interest rates or restructure their loan? It's a possibility. Banks learned from what happened in 2008, and they're more accepting of working something out instead of just foreclosing.
Okay. Shout out to his barber.
Yes.
John
hooked me up today, came to the office because barbershops are closing, and I mean it's just crazy what's happening out there with.
Well, as of midnight, there's a rule that everyone needs to be home. You can't leave.
So Voltaire,
Did they just start
take
that?
your ass home.
I've been at the office all week.
Someone asked, "Are you quarantined at the office?"
It feels that way. Yeah, quarantine.
You guys, he's homeless. His office is his home.
I got my bed up there. No, but in all honesty, we just been out here just it's like business as usual. We see a small slowdown in future business so far. It's only been a few days. It's only been less than a week. But what we can, and that's why I said this broadcast is premature. We're going to report back a month from now, 2 months from now, and let you know what's really happening. But so far, there's still people that want to buy homes. There's still people that haven't been impacted. They're quarantined, but they're still getting paid.
I have another question that you may have answered. Any chances that the market will go down this year?
I feel that there is going to be an adjustment, okay? Just because I think the biggest threat is consumer confidence and employment. And those two things combined could slow down the pace of the increase of properties. So, for example, the last 90 days, people have been paying $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more for properties than what the sellers were asking. So now with this consumer confidence and everything tightening up, I think on the higher end especially, there's going to be a price reduction. On the lower end, I don't see it happening. So $300,000 condos, $400,000 condos, $500,000 homes, it's still very competitive.
So you don't see a crash, but you do see an adjustment.
Yeah, I don't see a crash. I see an adjustment, and that's kind of the consensus. And again, it's not just me, okay? I'm sharing conversations that I've had with a lot of smart people throughout the last week or so, just picking their brains, seeing what they think. So this is like a accumulation of a lot of really smart people's opinions.
There's another question. Do you think banks will stop giving loans or make it harder to get it? Which we have a lender that's live, could probably answer it. R. Kelly. He's been answering questions on the comments.
Oh, yeah. So
what do you think?
Yeah, so shout out, by the way, to all the smart people that I did talk to. So I talked to R. Kelly, I talked to Anita, I talked to my financial people, I talked to Anita. There's a lot of smart people that I talked to a lot of landlords. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get a loan. FHA, VA conventional should still be pretty solid. The banks might throw on some extra layers on there just to protect themselves from losing money, because the banks don't want to lose money. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult. However, it's not that hard if you have a good job, good credit. It's not that hard.
Someone said, I've been talking to people and been told that the 401k has been affected. Real estate is the best avenue to invest. Do you agree?
Yeah. So most of American wealth has been created through real estate. So I definitely believe that real estate is the best way to create real estate long-term. Stocks, I'm not going to lie, they're exciting, right? Because you buy it and then they go up, they go down, and then like your adrenaline's pumping. You lose a couple of years off your life because you're just like scared to death you're going to lose stuff. With real estate, it's more steady than anything else. For example, how many times has people lost 30%, 50% of their stock wealth just like that? Many times, right? And then it goes back up or whatever. But with real estate, it doesn't really happen that fast, except in 2008 when it just, it was crazy what happened.
Sounds like it'll become a buyer's market in the next couple of months. Would you agree?
I would say there's opportunities for buyers out there, especially considering that there's probably going to be some panicky sellers. I think sellers that were thinking of selling these last few years, where they're like looking at their real estate prices, kind of like people look at their stock prices and saying, wow, it's the peak, I should sell. No, it's not the peak. Oh, wow, now it's the peak, I should sell. I think those people might just put their property on the market right now and sell, and buyers could take advantage of that. And especially if this lasts a little bit longer into like few months of quarantine, what'll happen is their buyer competition is going to be non-existent, because people are going to be in their homes. They're not going to want to go out and look at property. Their paychecks, they might not be able to qualify. So there is opportunities. Now, the last thing I'll say about opportunities is, in order to make money, you got to have money. So people that were on the sidelines, people that were savings, people that are being able to buy cash, they're going to have a lot of opportunities. I was talking to a flipper earlier today. This flipper has received more phone calls to buy properties in the last few days than the entire year. So I told this flipper, expect those phone calls to triple in the next 30 days. So when you're buying to flip, I said, don't buy anything yet, because for those people that need to sell, those people that have some type of financial situation that's causing them to sell, they'll even sell it for less 30 days from now than they are right now.
I got a good question.
Yeah.
Well, they're all good questions, but this one says, a lot of people have built wealth on times like this. Where do you see opportunity for someone that doesn't have thousands to invest?
Okay, good. So I'm not gonna lie. Last week, when all this started really like kicking in, when the NBA canceled their season and all this, like the shit started hitting the fan, I got excited. And the reason why I got excited was because in 2008, I I wasn't smart enough to really take advantage the way I could have taken advantage of that market and created even extraordinary wealth. If I had 2008 to do it all over again, I mean, it would just been a different story. So when this happened last week, I got really excited because I felt that there's a huge opportunity. So it's our job now as investors or anybody with money to really dive into studying, having conversations, analyzing, and seeing where we could really make money. So in real estate, I already know what I'm going to do in order to capitalize. If you have $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, I would say really, talk to some financial people about some long-term stock, about the S&P 500, something safe that you could put your money into, and you could let it grow, let it ride for the next 15, 20, 30 years. I think there's a huge opportunity there.
They could start out with buying, say, their home rather than renting.
They could even start in real estate.
Refinancing and then purchasing.
Yeah. So there's different opportunities. So if you have high interest loans, whether it's credit cards, car loans, home loans, hey, think about refinancing because rates are good. You could refinance. You could cut a lot of the interest that you're paying in half or whatever percentage. So that's one opportunity. The other opportunity is if you're renting, there's no reason why you should be renting when the average rent is $1,850 a month. We have condos for sale right now where you could walk into it and they're $1,400 a month?
Yeah.
Crazy with HOA. So $1,400, $1,600, $1,800, $2,000 condos that you could buy and be the owner of. So there's a lot of opportunity right now in this market. I think it's a good time to study the market. But if you just have $5-10 grand, you could either buy a property, you could invest in stock, and safe stock, nothing crazy, So yeah.
What areas should buyers be looking? Single family homes.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the opportunity zone. So the opportunity zone is a federally designated area where you could actually buy real estate. And as an investor, develop it and then sell tax-free 10 years from now, all the way up to 2048, the year 2048. And the reason why you should buy a single-family home in that area, if you're not going to be developing it, is because there's a lot of money, like, I forgot the number, but it was like billions of dollars that are being poured into opportunity zones all around the country. And just on that alone, other people developing the neighborhood for you, wherever you buy your single family home, that's going to increase your property value over time. So you're going to be benefiting from that. The other thing with opportunity zone is I've seen them increase at a higher rate of appreciation than other parts of the county. So by the way, opportunity zones, Logan, definitely. City Heights, definitely look into that. There's Encano, National City. So there's different opportunity zones in the county that you can take advantage of right now.
Some parts of East County, I think, too.
East County as well, out in El Cajon, for sure.
No more questions so far.
Cool.
I just have comments. That's good for you young people.
You don't have to be young to take advantage. There's a lot of good stuff out there for everybody. It just depends how much work you want to put into it, really. So with that being said, thank you for joining us tonight. If you have any questions about the real estate market, where we're going, if you want us to analyze your personal situation, we could do that. It's absolutely free, obligates you to nothing. Just reach out to us. We're here to help. And hopefully we'll report back in a month or two and just give you a real, a more clear idea of what's happening. All right? See you guys later.
Awesome.
Did you guys enjoy this?
Yeah, a lot of good feedback.
Live.
Thank you for your info and your time. Lots of opportunities coming.
Yes.
Don't panic. Watch, research, and learn.
True.
The other one is great information, Mr. Lepe. You're amazing and the best real estate agent I know.
I agree.
Heart. That's your mom.
Oh, man. Come on. Hey, Mom, get off. Come on. You're messing things up.
I was going to say, wow.
Yeah. All right. We'll see each other.
All
Okay.
right, guys. Good night.
Bye. My phone's up.